In this video, we are going to be analyzing the Bluest and reddest state in each election, and some elections are something fun about each state, and we're going to discuss that if there's anything applicable. In 2024, the Bluest state is Vermont, and the reddest state is Wyoming. No, we are not including D.C. or Nebraska's 3rd congressional district in this. What makes Vermont interesting, though, is that, for a while, 2024, they elected a Republican governor by 51 points. He has solidly won in several elections that the Democrats have smashed in Vermont in the presidential elections. Since 2016, we've seen this Democratic governor in Vermont. Republican governor in Vermont. Last time we saw a Democratic governor in Vermont was 2014. So even though Vermont is the bluest state in the country, that's interesting. In 2020, Vermont was again the bluest state in the country, and the reddest state in the country was Wyoming. So no changes there. 2016, the bluest state in the country was Hawaii, and the reddest state in the country was also Wyoming. So Wyoming has consistently, been the most Republican state in the country. Vermont was the last 2 times. Before that, it was Hawaii. Vermont took a shift to the left recently, and Hawaii took a small shift to the right. That's why. I just find it odd how Vermont has a Republican governor despite all that. 2012, the bluest state was again Hawaii. No real surprises. This is Obama's birth state and a safely blue state. The reddest state was Utah. Again, Romney's state, and Romney is Mormon, so it makes sense why he would do so well in a state like Utah, which is already a safely Republican state. 2008, the bluest state is yet again Hawaii. Obama wins by 45 points. The reddest state in this election is Wyoming, but McCain only wins by 32 points. This shouldn't be a surprise, though, as Obama won this election in a landslide. In 2004, the bluest state was Massachusetts. It was only 25 points for Kerry, though. So, blue, but not nearly as blue. The reddest state, Utah, in this election. 2000, the bluest state was Rhode Island, and the reddest state was Wyoming. 1996, the bluest state was Massachusetts. The reddest state was Utah, but Utah was only 21 points for Dole. So, we can really see this and see as to how, in these elections, you can sort of tell how big of a landslide an election is based on this. In 92, when there were a bunch of close states, really honed this point in. In a pretty big win for Clinton, the safest blue state is Massachusetts, at 18.5% for Clinton. The reddest state, though, is Nebraska, at large, at 17.2 percentage points. The third was 22.9 for Bush, but the state at large was the bluest at 17.2. The reddest at 17.2. But that's really the closest. That's the biggest red state. There weren't really state landslides on either side in this election, which is very unique. 1988, the bluest state is now in the likely column because of the landslide, and it is Rhode Island at 11.7%. What I find interesting is that the second bluest state was Iowa, where Dukakis won by 10 percentage points. Iowa's weird because during this time, it was a bit of a left-leaning state. In Reagan's landslide, it was close for Reagan. Did vote for Clinton both times by more than what his national average was. Gore won the state in 2000, but then Bush flipped it in 2004. It voted comfortably for Obama in 2008 and 2012, and then all of a sudden, 2016, it takes a hard shift to the right, and that's what's been ever since. Iowa, though, was especially blue in this election because of a farm crisis in the Midwest. That's a big reason why Wisconsin was also won by the Democratic Party. So, this is a weird election. And the reddest state is New Hampshire. Wait, is it New Hampshire? No, it looks like it's Utah at 34.2. Maybe New Hampshire's second. Oh, yeah, it's New Hampshire was second reddest, and Utah was the reddest. 1984. The bluest state is Minnesota, which Mondale won by 0.18. Literally, the second bluest state, Massachusetts, voted Republican. And the most Republican state doesn't even show. Go figure. 1980. Carter's home state of Georgia is by far the most Democratic at 14.8% in favor of Jimmy Carter. The most Republican state, I think, is Idaho at 41.3%. (1976) Again, a lot of close states. The biggest landslide for Democrats is Georgia at 33.9%. Bluest state 2 elections in a row. For the Republicans, it's Utah at 28.8%. 1972. The bluest state is Massachusetts, which McGovern won by 9%. Notice how Minnesota, a 5.5 point Nixon win, was the second bluest state. Just a good fun fact. The reddest state will not even show. (1968) You have third parties. The bluest state is Rhode Island at 32.2%, the reddest state. Nebraska at 28%. And for the George Wallace, he won 5 states actually, 3 by solid margins. Alabama at 47.1% was his biggest win. 64. The bluest state I know is Rhode Island, which was a 61-point win for Johnson. Close with D.C. It won't show on the map. Actually, no, this one would show on the map. The Republicans only won a few electoral votes, but what they did, it was largely consistent. Arizona was the only close Republican win. Many of these deep South states were landslide. In particular, though, Mississippi voted for Goldwater by 74%, which was bigger than what Johnson won D.C. by. And wound up being the reddest state. And I think it was also the reddest state in 1972 when Nixon won the state by 58.6 percentage points, which was, again, more than what McGovern won even D.C. by. 1960. The biggest win for Kennedy is Rhode Island at 27.3%. Biggest win for Republicans is Nebraska at 24%. It was a bit of a theme back then for, this to be the case. No, in 1956, the biggest landslide for Republicans was actually Maine at 41.7%, and the biggest landslide was tied between Mississippi and Georgia at 33.8%. So you can look at this and tell sort of where the political trends are. Seeing as back in the day, it was common for states like Vermont, now seen as one of the bluest states in the country, to be one of the reddest states back then. And deep South states that are solidly Republican today, like South Carolina, was common to be the most Democratic back in the day.